What's going on, y'all? Bud Elliott here of the Nolecast, here with not an instant reaction, but a reaction to Florida State's 29-13 loss to the Clemson Tigers in Tallahassee to drop the Noles to 1-5, which absolutely sucks and is not a statement that I thought I would ever really be saying. And yet there are some things that I actually did want to podcast about today. And so I'm going to do just that. I will probably not sit here and rant and rave enough for some of y'all. And yet I think others may find this refreshing because that's basically what a lot of shows are doing. I just don't have the stomach to rant and rave for 7 more weeks. Like I think is probably going to be, required. So I want to talk about a couple things tonight. First, I want to talk about our sponsor, the Legendary Team. Chad does an awesome job closing in on 600 loans for Nolecast listeners. I've done 2 of them personally. I really enjoy it. I mean, obviously, like getting a home loan is a stressful experience, but with Chad, I think he makes the process easy, walks you through it. He's a guy has high knowledge of the market and a whole lot of passion for the Noles. So 844 FSU loan is the number you want to call for that one. Okay, so I went and watched the All 22 today and watched every snap, and I am a little bit more heartened, I think, in some areas than I thought I was going to be. Now, I thought Clemson would cover, but not by a ton. I don't know what did I say? I think it was going to be like 31-13 or something like that. It was 29-13, whatever I said. I'm sure you guys will correct me in the comments, and it's not really pertinent. But I thought you got pretty good effort in terms of like, did you play hard from most of the players on the team? I was encouraged, quite honestly, by some of the lineup changes that the staff made. I thought those were necessary, especially because some guys just at a certain point, doesn't really matter what you do in practice overall if you can't bring that to the game field. Now, of course, I mean, look, there's an element of like you got to be able to practice well if you want to play well, and I totally agree with that. I have been calling for DJ to be benched for a while now. I guess the finger injury, it reported that he ended up having surgery on that. Maybe that's the catalyst to really truly go to Brock Glenn, but that's where we'll start tonight. Let's talk a little bit of Brock Glenn here and see what do I see in Brock Glenn. I texted around to some guys who watch this as well, and I don't have access to FSU's internal grades, but I got to tell you, man, like when I watched this, I was pretty encouraged. Now, that doesn't mean that some of the struggles that Brock has in practice, and he does have them, it doesn't mean those are gone or that they won't show up in future games. If I'm a DC watching this, there's some stuff I think I can trap Brock Glenn on, right? He's going to have some bad games. I have no doubt. And you might tell me, hey, 50 dropbacks and 5.6 per attempt, a pretty bad game. And I was like, yeah, that's fair. But like with this receiving core and no run game to speak of right now, I don't know how much better you really expect when you have some of the drops that you have as well. But I was pretty encouraged by some things. And I want to go like my main part of the show tonight, I think it's just going to be me going through what I saw on like 20 or 25 plays that I think I could have a real takeaway from. And that's basically it. I'm not going to go through every single drop back because sometimes like just what's the point? Like I probably have 6 or 7 where Clemson covers it well and he decides not to throw it to a covered guy. Cool. But like that's not really great podcasting. It's certainly not great audio, which of course, we still do really good audio numbers. So I don't want to forget the audio audience for the sake of the video audience. So here's what I saw from Brock. It's hard not to be pissed at Mike Norvell if you're a Florida State fan for running DJ out there these past couple of weeks, right? I mean, I get it. DJ has been better in practice. Brock has a far more limited menu to work with than DJ does, I think, in terms of like maybe what he's comfortable running within the offense. But I don't know that. It's just based on how they called the game. It makes me think like that. But I thought, even though it was a bit more of a limited menu, it was executed more competently and certainly more confidently than how DJU was executing. And there was some, like, I don't know what you want to call it, like gravitas or some pace to it, some purpose to it. It just looked like Brock Glenn had some real intent and some real kind of what for in his game. And to me, that's pretty encouraging. Like that's something that you kind of got to have if you want to play the quarterback position. It was one of the reasons why I was just very much out on DJ as early as I was in this season. Although, like, I mean, granted, like he did have a couple games where the receivers did to him what they did to Brock Glenn last night. Uh, Also, I will say that given the level of competition that is Clemson's pass rush, I was very encouraged for the most part by the consistency with which FSU protected for Brock Glenn. And I was equally encouraged, and I'll go through this with some of these plays, but I was equally encouraged that Glenn, despite having really no basis for belief that he was going to be well protected, stood in there and did not drift as much as I thought and feared that he might drift. He actually stood in there. He took a couple hits, but like he maneuvered in the pocket okay. He slid around a couple times and tried to change arm angles, which I thought was encouraging to see. I thought Brock, it was curious. Like I'm like, why do you believe you're going to have protection? But that's good because that tells me this kid's not been ruined by the struggles that this offense has had so far. Like some of these guys, I feel like just never really get the feel for how do you play within the pocket. Like, can you trust your protection? But I think Glenn may have some of that, and that's a really encouraging thing. A couple more notes before I get into some of the specific plays here. Now, look, I know it's 45 attempts, and the drops were not insanely frequent. Like PFF graded it as 5 drops. I don't really have 5. I think I have like 3 or 4. Um, the one ball down the seam, it is a drop. It does hit the guy in the face mask, but it's probably not the shoulder that the receiver was expecting the ball to go over. So that's a tough adjustment. And we'll get into it more. 5 and 45 is too high, but it's not insanely high. Like you did throw the ball 45 times. You dropped back 50 times against Clemson. I was a little surprised that we did not see any designed quarterback run game from the Noles. But I'm also curious, like maybe they thought that that Clemson was going to be kind of covering down for that, if you will, and that it would open up things in the pass game. Because I guarantee if you gave Clemson's defensive coaches the truth serum, they probably would not, in their wildest dreams, think FSU was going to drop back 45 times with Brock Glenn. But I'll say this, as far as the drops and as far as the protection, overall, I think the offensive line, pass protection wise, will grade pretty well. The receivers will probably not grade pretty well, although there's a couple who made some nice catches. But the magnitude of the screw up does matter a little bit, and that won't really show up in the grading as much. For instance, if you're a tackle and you get beaten 5 or 6 times in a game, but not like crazily beaten, like you lost the rep, but you didn't get destroyed on the rep. That's not the same thing to me as if you have 1 or 2 reps where you just get absolutely crushed. And the difference is, at least to me, is sort of like a margin of error that you afford the quarterback. If you are just getting totally destroyed off the snap, and nobody really did it all the time. Otto got a couple times. 59 got once. I think Mo Smith got once. I think that increases the chance of you having a turnover or just an absolute disaster play. Also, like Mo Smith screwing up 2 snaps, like the one is wildly over Glenn's head, the other is kind of low and hot and to the left. Um, I mean, how old is this guy now? Like that stinks that you're still having snap issues there, but you are. That's kind of where you are, and that's why I think you'll probably have some staff changes in the offseason because this does not look anywhere within the realm of acceptability, at least in my opinion. So yeah, didn't love the lack of using his legs, but I really liked what I saw. Let's get into it. Obviously, congruityhr.com/Knowles is the number to call if you want to optimize your business, just as we'll look at these plays and see how FSU can continue to optimize what they have in Brock Glenn and optimize their passing game. congruityhr.com/Knowles. Matt Lewis, a diehard Knoll, will be with you every step of the way for your business, whether it's payroll, HR solutions, whatever you need. Matt Lewis can hook you up. Support the Nolecast and hit up Matt Lewis think you'd be like the 11th or 12th Nolecast listener to partner with Congruity. So certainly awesome there if you decide to. Okay, so I just have general notes here on what I have 24 plays. All right, and I don't have timestamps on these. I'm sorry, but they are in order roughly uh, by quarter. So I'll just start with some of the stuff in the first quarter. All right, the first miss that I thought was a bit of a critical miss. There's an RPO, a glance. It's early in the ball game. He does fire a little hot and higher, or a little hot to Ja'Kai Douglas. I personally think Douglas can catch this if he does not get kind of caught up in his route. It's a weird route. Like if you look at it, he kind of stumbles a little bit at the top of the stem. So maybe that's why Glenn's throw looks a little hotter. I'm probably just willing to give more of the benefit of the doubt to Glenn because he played decently well in my opinion. But if this is more on target, or maybe if Douglas is perhaps more where Glenn thought he was going to be, then maybe this is a completion and one that can go for a good number of yards. But ultimately, like it wasn't behind him; it wasn't an interceptable pass. Had some good pace on it. Glenn stood in there and fired it in. Like to me, I don't downgrade him that much. Like it's a miss. You want to put it on the guy. I think he probably was expecting Douglas to be a step or two more. Again, Douglas does stumble. Not like stumble's not the right word, but it's not a super clean route. He kind of gets hung up at the top of the stem. All right, so the next one I thought was worth discussing on 3rd and 7. Byers gives up way too much ground. This is the ball that is kind of out of your own end zone. Now, here's the thing. I think Brock needs to climb the pocket here, but Toafili is kind of looking to help, right? And it's like one of those assignments where you look for help. If not, then you run your pass route. Cool. Like that's just a pretty common thing you do with back protection. Well, Toafili doesn't really find anybody to block, which is fine. So he should release into the route, but he's sort of searching for it and almost gets in Glenn's way. And so Glenn can't really step up. But because Byers, one of the few like legitimately poor passing game reps Byers had, came on this play. So he kind of has to fire and doesn't, he's not able to hit him. Benson's actually coming wide open here late. If you watch this, if he has, they're going into the north end zone here. If you watch this, he actually has Benson for like a 50 or 60 yard touchdown because the route combo actually worked and Clemson bust this coverage. It's just, I think Glenn could have possibly navigated this pocket a little bit better, but his eyes, I think, do come down slightly to see the rush on this one. And I had a little ding there for that. But again, I think Toafili also gets in his way, which I don't know. Like, is it really Toafili's fault? Probably not. Like the guy's looking around for somebody to block before he releases out into that kind of like check release valve. Okay, it happens, but I think if Glenn had seen it, he probably fires it. Now, does he hit Benson? I don't know, but Benson definitely got open on this one and didn't get it. Next throw that I thought was worth talking about stands in there. Now they're going to the south end zone. So I think this is the start of the second quarter. Decent deep ball to one. Now I think you got to lay it out there a little bit better potentially to run under it, but the route is kind of well covered, and he puts this really like the only guy that can make this catch is the receiver, and does. If the receiver doesn't catch it, then it probably just falls harmlessly out of bounds. Like this is a really good throw, and it wasn't a crazy explosive play. I think he threw it like 30 yards in the air, but given what FSU's passing games look like this year, that was something special to behold. So I really like that one. Like that's a high level throw with both some like pace and some touch that you really haven't seen DJ do so far this year. Next one I thought was really nice here. This is the 3rd and 9. Yeah, this 3rd and 9. It looks like an RPO because they're probably setting up to go in 4-down mode here. There's a guy right in his face. Dude comes free. Brock throws this to the wide side of the field. It's on time. It's really, really well thrown. It allows Hakeem to just catch it and get upfield. This is one thing that we discussed. If you look at the last Nolecast, we said, hey, go back like 2 Nolecasts when I basically people said you're being too mean to DJ. I'm like, look, the numbers are the numbers. The yards after the catch ability here on this DJ stuff are not there. Watch this ball. Watch the ball that he throws to the wide side to Keem that allows Hakeem to just catch it, turn up field, make a good move on the guy. Now, I'm a little worried about this because the underneath backer probably should jump this. And this is kind of where we get into the idea like the progression won't likely just be linear for Brock Glenn. It probably won't just continue to get better and better and better every game. If he does, cool, awesome. I guess he'll just win the Heisman or something. But there are a couple of plays here I'm like, I don't really know what the other route is doing there. Like, why is the backer actually like respecting that? He probably needs to start drifting out to where Hakeem's running his route and maybe not pick it, but affect the throw. And Glenn, he doesn't stare it down, but he definitely doesn't look it off for long. But he throws a dime. Okay. If you're going to do that, you better throw a damn good ball with some pace. And I thought his arm looked pretty good in this game. Like there wasn't a lot of stuff that he underthrew or didn't have the juice to get it there when there wasn't a guy like literally in his face causing him to throw, a bit of a fadeaway. So that was encouraging. Next play I thought was they're going in the south end zone. I have it written down here. Excellent fade ball, an even better catch. Trusted his protection. This is the one where Otto gets trucked, and I thought Glenn would fade away here and it would affect the throw. Instead, he just basically stands in there and throws an absolute dime. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, like, I'm not telling you Brock Glenn's going to be an NFL player, but I'd be willing to bet you dinner that he graded out pretty nicely in FSU's grading system in terms of standing in the pocket and trusting that protection would be good enough, which most of the time it was, and throwing like making the correct decision. Will people cloud it more? Will they make his reads a little muddier? Will they make him go from 1 to 2 to 3 a little more often, make him pat the ball a little bit? Probably. Yeah, that's probably coming. We'll see how he handles it. May handle it like really terribly. May handle it great. We don't really know. But for one night against a defense, and they only scored 13 points, I thought the throws he was making at least were encouraging. I did not see anything out of Glenn that made me think in this game. Now, clearly, like practice stuff, DJ has been better in many cases. I didn't see anything out of this game that made me think, yeah, they should go back to DJ. Like, there's something to work with here, in my opinion, and I would continue with this. Then there's the picky throws. I don't know why I have this down this low. This was in the first quarter. I'm like 99% sure Hakeem makes the wrong route adjustment here. And so the ball goes right to the defender. I don't know why. Yeah, it's clearly miscommunication. PFF didn't even grade this as a turnover worthy play for Glenn, despite the fact that he threw an interception, which means they're basically putting it, or rather, did not grade it as a turnover worthy pass, which means that they put it on the receiver. Just something that'll have to continue to be worked out. All right, next one I want to talk about here. All right, so you have this is a ball that Glenn's got to get out pretty hot because you do jack up the protection here. So you have Toafili as like an offset wing, right? I don't really know what he's doing. But ultimately you have 3 to protect 2. So Toafili's going to try to get a chip before he releases into his route, I think. He doesn't really get one. And then left tackle and left guard, and this to me looks like bad coaching, to be honest, guys. Like, they don't communicate this at all. So you got 3 guys to block 2. Instead, you end up with like 2 on 1, which means you have 1 on none, which means you have 1 on the QB. So that's a problem. Anyway, 3-step out of empty. Ball's got to be out on time because it is hot. And this is not a big blitz, by the way. They just kind of botched this protection. You know what? He does it. Just fires it in there. It's like, okay. I see you, Brock Glenn. Like, that's encouraging. So they're moving the ball. And then you get a bad snap over his head. I kept this in here because he didn't panic. He didn't pick it up and try to run around, do something stupid. I think he realized like that thing is launched. I mean, that's like, going to Thomasville. Got to just get on that, and he does. So good job getting down there, going on it. The 3rd and 9, from their own goal line, that is one that I was like, okay, they do trust this kid a little bit to chuck it out of there. They're not just giving up. They're not throwing kind of BS screen. Douglas runs a nice route. I think Glenn does a great job of moving within the pocket to buy a little bit of time here. I like how he alters the arm angle that he throws with a little bit. Throws a good throw to me. It's going to be a first down. Get the drive started. Douglas drops it. Oh man, this receiving core. If they don't hold on to these receiver commits, I can't see holding on to the coach there. Can't have this many drops. Not when it was a problem at Miami. So I don't know that you can really totally attribute that to a receiver coach, but I'm choosing to. All right, so let's go to the next one here. Throw number 12. We got about 20 something to talk about. So should be good. Maybe a 30 or 40-minute show. Ultimately, like you're seeing a pattern. Brock is starting to, he's like, okay, I know where I need to go with the ball. He doesn't seem real confused. He's not like forcing it in for the most part on stuff where he shouldn't force it to. It just looks good. It looks decisive. I thought he played with good toughness, good confidence. That's encouraging, man. For a kid whose first start of the year comes against Clemson. That's tough. He looks way better than when he got in games last year, especially against Louisville and when he got hurt against Louisville. So, all right. So the next one here is a nice shot play drawn up by FSU. So they're running jet to the field. Okay. So you're gonna get something that's probably comes kind of hot off the edge. You got to pick it up. It's a pick because like obviously the way you would block the jet, you're not going to block the end man on the line of scrimmage. You're hoping the end man on the line of scrimmage chases. Okay. So you're basically running, if I can kind of just design this. Okay. So you are having the jet go this way. Okay. To the field. You're faking it to him. Your tackle here is not going to block the end because you're trying to do jet, like you're trying to make it look like jet. So there's no like the jet would, the D end here would never chase down that jet. So the tackle doesn't block him. Okay. That's not a mistake. All right. Then the other guy comes over and picks up the guy if he doesn't chase the jet, which he doesn't chase it enough. He goes right after Glenn and he get it picked it up, but it's a bit of a messy pickup. So I can't really put this on the O line. It just sometimes the DN's a really good player and it doesn't work, but you are trying to draw up a shot play here. I thought Glenn did a great job of not panicking on this one. Okay. Slides, moves around, squares his shoulders, throws an absolute dime to Kentron. Kentron drops it. I probably wouldn't say this stuff, back before these guys got paid, but I don't need to see Kentron playing more football. What are we doing? Like, dude, come on. Gotta help this kid out. So great throw. Great job to not panic. Shot play. I like the design of the play. It doesn't hit. So that sucks. All right. Next one that I think had to be pretty frustrating for Glenn. You got a play action shot. They didn't do a ton of play action because they operated a ton of empty. But this is one. It's a play action shot. You got 21 running down the seam. He's got really nice speed. It does hit him like in the shoulder pad face mask area. So I think that's the one you want the guy to catch. To me, this is not quite the same level of drop as the one that one drops. Simply because like it's a much higher degree of difficulty. And I think you can argue that if Glenn doesn't have some pressure here, he probably needs to lay this ball out a little more. And also, I think you can probably say it's on the wrong shoulder. So I don't know if I want to give a full drop for this. Certainly, it's one the kid would want to have, but like, it's not like he gave it poor effort or gave up on the ball. He kind of fight it. Sorry, I kind of talk with a highlighter in my hand. If you guys are watching the YouTube video, you know how it is. I try to keep this thing as raw as possible. Okay. Next one, 2nd and 20. This is where you go. Okay, so this is going into the south end zone. 3 and a hitch. get it out quick. It's 2nd and 20. You know, you're almost certainly you're in 4 down territory. You got to pick up something on this. If the first read isn't open, like you're reading it as you're dropping. Back foot hits, ball's out of the hand. It's to Thomas for 11. That's a pretty good play. Okay. You go from 2nd and 20 to 3rd and 9 in what's obvious 4 down territory. So then you get 2 plays to pick up 9 yards. I won't really discuss what happens after that. So, you know. Anyway, next one, bad snap. Kind of gets corralled. He gets out of the pocket. This is the one that's like low and left at him, and he throws it away. So it doesn't panic, right? Doesn't make anything special out of it, but doesn't totally screw it up. Next one, the scramble. This I thought was great. This is a play where DJ is just smoked in the backfield. Like DJ scrambling this year was nothing. And he also started to panic in the pocket a little bit. Like Brock was so much calmer in the pocket on Saturday night. So even if like maybe some of the protection calls aren't as perfect as they could be, I thought Brock was pretty comfortable operating with messy pockets. But this one, he sees the DN coming. He gives him a little stutter, gets around him, shows the athleticism, shows the toughness, gets the scramble, and gets home. Okay. That's not too bad. It's not too bad. Matzo Township and especially Charlie Park. Charlie Top Rooftop Restaurant is an awesome place to go if you are a person who likes to eat or drink in Tallahassee. And if you want to support our show and have an awesome set of experiences and sponsors. Come on, man. CharlieParkRooftop.com. Charlie Park. Why can't I talk tonight? Huh. CharlieParkRooftop.com. CharlieParkRooftop.com is the spot to hit. Brunch, maybe after work drinks, date night. Charlie Park is the spot to hit up. I know a lot of y'all coming to town after the bye week for some ball games. Should be really good weather, by the way. Like I kind of like some of these home games that you got set up after the bye week. With the the team sucks, so like that part clearly sucks, but the experiences don't, right? And most people I don't think are coming to town only because the team is guaranteed to win. Now, make no mistake, like some people are going to be turned off with the team playing this poorly. But I think you can kind of be proud of the fight they showed as well. So let's keep breaking down some of this Brock Glenn stuff. I'm just kind of going through what I saw. These are like some of the better ones and some of the bad ones. But overall, just like the ones that were more impactful. Clemson covered you on a lot of plays. Those are the ones I've mostly cut out. All right, 3rd and 4, sees the slant, knows it's there, gets the right pre-snap look. Back foot hits the ground, ball's out, hits it, 1st down, let's move. All right, next one. You got 5 to block 4. 59 is walked back into Glenn immediately. So this one hurts. This is a shot play that I do think, man, I don't say scores because I don't know if it's going to score, but like it's got a real chance to score. But because 59 is being walked back into the quarterback, which is disappointing. Wait, why did I write 59? 69. And honestly, like he didn't play that bad of a game, Ferguson. Like, overall, this totally nukes his play because I think it's Benson has his DB pretty cooked. And instead, Glenn definitely gets like run into, has to try to throw like a 40 or 50 yard fade away. And he's not Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen, so that's really not going to work. But the receiver still drops it. I mean, it's a much harder catch. This is the other one where like, okay, I get it. Like, is he really going to catch this? I don't know. Clearly, like he won on the route. He had to come back for it. That's not really his strength as a player. You'd like to see him catch it. But this is one where, like I said, the magnitude of the miss does impact the play sometimes. You can have a competitive loss of a pass protection rep. And I think, I don't know, you probably had, 10 or 11, like just really non-competitive pass rush reps. And that's too many. That's not really going to show up in some of the grading stuff. Okay. That's like, hey, what if a quarterback goes, 40 of 43, has 5 touchdowns, but he throws 3 picks and they're all like bad, egregious pick sixes. You see what I'm saying? Like It's like, cool, man. Yeah, I drive pretty well 360 days of the year, except for the 5 car crashes I get into. So, um, yeah. All right. A couple more here. I thought this was pretty nice. Just not trying to do anything insane. So they run. This is going into the south end zone, the final drive. You get the like extended RPO with the bubble look. So Glenn's got the option to either hand it or extend it towards the sideline and throw the late bubble. This works sometimes. Auburn actually made this play famous against against Alabama in the 2013 Iron Bowl. I think if you go back and watch this, the kick six game where the FSU ends up playing and beating that Auburn team in the Rose Bowl for the national title, like 11 years ago now. But anyway, Clemson covers this pretty well. Glenn tries to fit it in there, but he doesn't try to fit it in like some kind of crazy dangerous way. It's not a great throw, and like that, allowing the receiver to catch it and run with it could be an improvement there clearly, but it wasn't. It's one he probably want back. Next one. So this is the other touchdown that FSU had. I think it's play action and not an RPO, but it could be an RPO. I can't really tell. But anyway, if it is just play action, he sells it pretty well. The protection here is good. This is why I think it was play action and not pure RPO, because nobody's like crazily upfield. You know, they're all more like sliding. But Glenn sells it decent, pulls it, and throws an absolute strike for the touchdown. So that was solid. And then the last one of the day was like the last drop. This is a clear drop on 18. I mean, the game's basically over anyway. You got like a minute left, but you'd like to catch the ball. So he doesn't. And, that was pretty disappointing there overall. I mean, like you failed to get 300 yards. You had no run game going. Brock Glenn was the highest rated player on your team, by the way, per PFF. So that's pretty encouraging, right? 84 grade. Like that's got to be one of the highest graded quarterbacks in the country this week. Sucks to only score 13 points with that. Sucks to lose a game at home to a rival when you get that kind of play. Guys who graded really poorly again, Darion, Kyle Morlock. I mean, in very limited snaps. I'm glad to see they didn't give. I mean, they gave Darion 2 snaps. Catch the ball, dude, if you can. Morlock 14. Okay. Who else? Kentron graded poorly, at least by PFF. 21 total snaps there. I guess you got to play somebody at receiver, right? Benson, okay. Hakeem definitely had some good moments in the ball game. So that was fairly encouraging. Everybody graded really well in pass pro, with the exception of Andre Otto, who graded in the 50s. So that was poor. I guess Jalen Early. I might have even missed the reps he played. Like I wasn't specifically watching for him, but he had a pass. He had a grade of 22 in pass protection. So that ain't good. Also, like Clemson totally just destroyed your run game, which is a problem, right? You can't just put this all on Brock Glenn. So let's circle back. Do you think you have the quarterback of the future here in Brock Glenn? Not yet, but I can't rule it out, right? Like, is this a guy you can win with? Define win. Is it a guy you can win a national title with? Probably not. Is it a guy you could win a good number of ball games if you play well around him? Yeah, I think so. Certainly a guy who on the field, looks to have some leadership and some moxie to him. So that's encouraging. Decent athlete. Arm strength looks pretty solid. Not afraid to fire it in there. I have a little bit of worry that'll be a problem in some of these games where teams play a little bit different schemes, make him pat the ball, maybe see if he gets a little greedy. But what do you work on in the bye week, right? Do you incorporate more of these young guys, like these young tight ends you're running out there? That's encouraging, like very encouraging, right? Thomas played pretty well. I was encouraged, with the exception of the drop. What about Williams? I mean, that was good. Like those are some encouraging signs. McCoy got in the game. He played 11 snaps. That's cool. Hakeem's a young guy, redshirt freshman. Like that's encouraging. So some of these young guys getting in the game more, to me, that was pretty solid. Cam Davis played some snaps for it. BJ Gibson got in the game, played a couple of receiving snaps. Danzy, didn't play well, but had a couple. So I think he'll continue to play some of the young dudes in this offense. I think how do I say this? If they don't quit, I think you have to upgrade this team a little bit just based on the quarterback play. Like take a look at FSU's schedule coming up. I mean, there are some teams that you just almost certainly can't beat, barring some kind of crazy effort. Like, but Florida State will probably, and I know this sounds insane to you guys, they'll probably be favored on the road at Duke. And Duke is what 5-1, and you're 1-5. But it's also like, who have you played? Um, and then you go at Miami. Well, that's going to be really tough because I don't really think you can cover those guys very well, and I also don't think you can block them. But who knows? If Cam Ward is going to throw you the ball a whole bunch like he did to Cal, I mean, Cal almost beat those guys. Cal was up 25 on them on Saturday night before everything really kind of fell apart. North Carolina, who knows? Maybe they'll have fired Mac Brown by then and have an interim coach they care to play for. But I mean, yesterday they were like plus 10 in turnover EPA, got a pick six, and still couldn't even cover the game. Like they lost by 10. So that was wild. At the Irish, very doubtful you win that one just because I don't think you can truly block them. That's a really hard defense to prepare for. I would expect that they'll probably get a couple picks on Glenn if I had to guess on that one. Charleston Southern, that's a game you'll win. You better win. And the Gators, apparently all is fixed in Gainesville after beating Mississippi State and UCF when, I mean, Colorado just dump trucked UCF in Orlando by like 30. So I don't know. Maybe it is, and maybe it is not. We will see. Is this team going to turn around and make a bowl game? Very much doubt that, honestly. They'd have to find 5 wins in the final 6 games. That's not going to happen. Well, I don't know. I've been doing this long enough where I shouldn't say can't. That's exceedingly unlikely to happen. So probably will not. But it can show improvement. It can work on things for next year, which I think is all of us that uh, watch this team have been asking for quite some time. So anyway, I don't know about you guys. Like, I'm sure that Glenn will play some bad games. They might come immediately. They might not. Who knows? And I'm sure you'll be really frustrated about this team in future games. 100%. But on Saturday, the thing that frustrated me the most was the drops because the defense fought. When Clemson scored, for the most part, it was pretty well executed stuff from Clemson. And you made, again, for the most part, you made Clemson earn it, and you never quit. You continued to play hard-nosed defense. If they still have defensive buy-in on this team at 1-5, with a couple guys who have their eye to the NFL and a couple more who probably shouldn't, but we'll see if they do, then that's really damn encouraging, man. Maybe you can find a win or two down the stretch that you're not really expecting to have right now. This is a team that can lose any game, certainly. I don't think that the inverse of that applies where they can just win any game. But I think you got to be encouraged that they're not running DJU out there anymore. And I mean that with all due respect to DJU, like as a person. As a player, that finger injury's probably come at the right time for him. Assuming that's like what it is. Maybe he gets a reset, can go somewhere else. Who knows? I don't think Florida State had what they thought they had clearly as far as some of the run game stuff to put around him this season. And that's a conversation I think for, I don't know, maybe for the bye week. Maybe we need to discuss that actually. Probably should. Anyway, this has been fun. Well, as fun as a 1-5 podcast can be, but I was encouraged by some of the things I saw from Brock Glenn. Like, you could have played and been an absolute disaster against Clemson, and you weren't. I thought you played better than, better than NC State's kid did, better than Appalachian State's kid did, better than Stanford did. Those are teams people think are better than you in some cases, and I don't, but he acquitted himself well. I'll see you guys next time. This has been the Nolecast.